Yeah, this one's going to be a little different episode of That's What G Said podcast. It was just really tough to get this segment together. This is going to be our remembering Kobe segment and his daughter and the victims of the helicopter crash, the 9 lives that were lost just a few days ago. As someone who is a huge Laker fan and who has lived in Los Angeles my entire life, this is a massive loss for myself. This is a huge loss for the city, for the world, for basketball. Of course, mostly for the family of Kobe and the families of everybody who was lost. And we'll talk a lot, mainly about Kobe because that's the person that that we were able to kind of watch play through his 20 years as a Laker. To kind of set up the timeline a little bit, I am 32, so when Kobe started playing for the Lakers, he was 17. I was 9 years old. And I've been a huge sports fan my whole life, as you could probably imagine. And this was the first... And, at this time, I'm really into looking at all the numbers, looking at all the stats, reading the paper every morning, just thoroughly Lakers, Dodgers, USC, knowing everything. And so Kobe comes in, and immediately there's a buzz about him, and you kind of know he's special, but the Lakers weren't bad. And he had, Eddie Jones in front of him, then Exel's around, and then Shaq's there, and he's still 17 and a guard. He comes in from high school. It's not quite like, the bigger players who came in from high school. And I'm going to try my best to kind of not ramble, but it's going to be hard. I'm going to just mainly go through a bunch of different thoughts that I have, and then a bunch of different stories that I've seen and tweets and messages that other people have posted or stories about Kobe. So I think, to me, what Kobe was, he kind of represented what we want from an athlete as a fan, right? With his work ethic, with the loyalty. He was very real. He wasn't the nicest guy in the world, right? He was an ass a lot of the time. But it was his will to win. He wasn't that way for no reason. He was stubborn. He was not perfect, right? Let's not pretend like he was a perfect guy. He had many indiscretions from the sexual assault case, right? That happened. I'm not going to go into any specifics because it's hard. It's a lot of fuzzy stuff when you read through and look at the details. You talk about, he didn't get along with all of his teammates. He had issues with Phil Jackson at times. He had issues with Shaq. Smush Parker, another one who comes to mind. Dwight. But I think that's probably a little reason why we like him. Because he wasn't perfect. I don't think any one of us are. And he's done some things that it feels like when you've seen him in the last few years of his life that he's really learned from and grown from. And that's kind of all you can ask as people, right? We're all going to make mistakes. How do you respond and kind of rebound from your failures or from the times you mess up? And I can honestly say that this was the one athlete that truly kind of inspired me as far as how I want to work. Because I knew that no matter what I do, especially playing sports and stuff, I was never the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. But what I could do was I could do what Kobe did and work the hardest. And I knew that if I did that, I'd always have at least some advantage over the other people who just weren't working quite as hard at whatever this was. And I tried to do that in almost everything I did in life. And if I felt like I couldn't really do that, I could kind of move on, because it would. I always wanted to at least feel like I could outwork everyone, whether it be a crazy story, showing up early, showing up late, doing whatever. And that's something that I listened to Kobe say. And so for me, like, a constant of my life for 20 years was watching this guy play and kind of knowing that every time he stepped foot on the court, you had a shot, and that he was going to give you everything, and he wasn't going to be sitting out games because he was a little banged up, and he just cared about winning. But again, even in saying that, right, we saw him grow up and from like a teenager into a man with a family now. And how about the game? I remember the game where he wouldn't pass, where he wouldn't shoot. All he was doing was passing, just to show that when everybody said, he wasn't passing enough, to show, hey, look, I'll pass all the time, and look what happens. And Steve Nash even told a story that he said Kobe asked him one time, how do you trust your teammates so much? And Steve Nash, said, I guess I have to. He kind of laughed. He said, I'm not as talented as you and skilled as you, so I need them. And he said he wasn't sure if Kobe was kind of just messing with him mentally, or if he was genuinely like trying to get something out of him. And I mean, he was an all-star starter before he was a starter on the Lakers. It's just another thing. He had a 60-point final game, and it aired on Monday night. He had a post-game speech right after that was just unbelievable. They won that final game. He seemed just so content and so happy at the end of his life. He didn't seem like a guy who was struggling with having to retire. He seemed like he was ready for the next stage of his life, something that he was already working on. And I had read that he'd already made more money in his post-basketball career than he did in his NBA career as far as his contracts were concerned. With what he was doing off the court towards the end of his career, he'd already established these businesses, and we saw he won an Oscar, and he was very into storytelling and writing and producing movies and documentaries and podcasts, and he was very into children and coaching, which was another thing that I thought was kind of cool. For someone who is so talented, you generally don't have the patience when it comes to coaching others. We've seen a lot of really good players not be the best coaches when they have to transition into that role. And Kobe, he had a problem with some of his teammates, but the reason that he had problems with teammates were because of how they worked and their work ethic. If you worked hard, he understood your talent level. He understood who you were, and he understood who he was playing with. And if you notice, like, some of the players he was closest with, they were not always the best players. He was very close with Sasha Vujacic, and a lot of that was just because how hard he worked. And he just he trained really hard and practiced with him. And Kobe really liked passing on information. He liked learning, and he said later on in his life, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to take it with me. And he was just an unbelievable coach and kind of a mentor, to his daughters and a lot of these young girls in particular. Later, after his playing career, he was such a huge fan of the WNBA, and so many of the women, Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, all came out, and we saw the videos of his daughter, Gianna, who was unbelievably talented. And as someone who's a new father myself, I just can't really imagine what Vanessa is going through right now, losing, Kobe and a daughter, and the other families who have lost other young children and, people who were just flying on a copter down to go get involved with their kids. Just some of the other memories we have jotted down before I start getting into kind of some of the other social media stuff and articles. The reason why he got the helicopter to begin with. He talked about how he missed a play for one of his daughters because he was sitting in traffic, and he said, "You know what? I don't want to be sitting and wasting hours sitting in traffic." When he had the means to get a helicopter, he did. So that way he said, even if it's picking the kids up and from school, dropping them off, if it's 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there, he wanted those 20 minutes, which a lot of people don't care about. And I think those are the little things that we started to see as he became more of a man in front of our eyes, and someone who started to kind of look around and care about the little things a little bit more than he did early on in his career. And the mistakes that he made, whether it be personal life with his wife or with some teammates, it seemed like they helped shape him and turn him into someone who, was a little bit was able to kind of give people real advice, and you kind of trusted and listened to him because he'd been through it all, the ups and the downs. He was going to be in the new Saved by the Bell. I heard Mario Lopez say he was going to film a cameo in that they're filming coming up soon. I'm watching WWE on Sunday night, and I've never, any athlete in any other sport, I can't think of anyone that's not been a wrestler that they've given a tribute to on their show, and they give a big tribute to Kobe and his family, and they stopped the broadcast for a moment to give him a shout out. It was, this is something that is really big because he just was, his name alone, right? From the there's so few people who you can just say the name, one name, and you don't have to say Kobe Bryant. You just say Kobe, and everybody knows what's going on, right? It was always the joke when you're taking the shot, you're Kobe, or you're throwing the piece of paper into the trash can in class, Kobe. And the 81-point game, the game where he had 62 points through three quarters against Dallas, right? And he had outscored the Dallas Mavericks team through three quarters, and he didn't even play the fourth. The impact that this has had on the other players from around the league and post players from the past and current players, I don't think I was expecting it to be this huge. I knew this was huge, and then you just see everybody, and you kind of realize that how big of a star he was for such a long time, and particularly out here in LA. But I think you don't think about how big he was globally, with the shoes, in China, just the Olympics, the NBA championships, the gold medals, the MVP. There are buildings lit up all across the world with the Laker colors. Everybody making gestures with the number 8, and the number 24s. A lot of these players now have been changing their numbers from 8 and 24. The Mavericks retired the number 24 already. For someone like me who's in a family who sports are a big part of too, I can't even count how many times, my dad or I would call the other one or get the other one when I was younger into the other room because of something that was happening in a Laker game that we saw. Did you see what Kobe just did? Or call me. Or, did you see? Or I give him a call later as he's gotten older. Sometimes it'd be even waking him up. Dude, you got to turn on the TV right now. What Kobe's doing, and then that was with friends too, right? I was just talking with a group of my buddies about where we were at the old apartment that we lived at in Pasadena when the Lakers won their last title. And we were, talking about how one of my buddies roots for Duke and the other one roots for the Yankees. And we had seen those championships at this place too. You just kind of remember sharing this. And even years before that, I would go to the boat when it was still the old boat and the restaurant, eat the cheese bread, and there we'd have big gatherings of people from my friends from St. Luke's, and we'd watch the games there, and there'd be standing room only. Everybody would be screaming. It would be like you'd have to be there an hour before the game to get a seat at the restaurant, and everybody's going crazy. And the lob to Shaq against Portland, the pass to Meta World Peace, and after he's Kobe, pass me the ball. The play where Matt Barnes on the sidelines is about to throw the ball right into Kobe's face, and he doesn't even flinch. The scoring 55 against Michael Jordan, and the shooting the free throws with the ruptured Achilles, and he still walks off the court on his own. They're just suiting up for every game with a busted shoulder, busted knee, just banged up all the time, and just playing in every game that mattered. And I remember even early on, being when he was younger and I was younger, being like, "Why, Kobe, are you doing this with Shaq? Come on," getting mad at Kobe because and then you kind of learn more and more that he worked and he just wanted to work, and it really wasn't going to fit with Shaq at that point. Shaq was just kind of having fun, and they just had different personalities, and that's why they were great, because they needed to balance each other out a little bit, and I'm going to go through, I mentioned I'm just going to be all over the place. I wanted to make this such a good segment, and I just knew I would never have the opportunity to, because the thoughts were just going to be kind of bouncing all over. You see something, it makes you think of something else. And I'm going to go through some notes from some articles that I've been reading, and some pieces on Kobe. This one's from Ramona Shelburne, talking about how when she was doing a story with him towards the end of his career, he didn't want to do a piece that was anything other than something that could inspire someone and teach them and push them. He wanted to pass on what he learned and to inspire. When it's unbelievable that he really, really did that. He made a joke. He said some people want to take things with them to the grave, like Lord of the Rings. The world is filled with a lot of Smeagol's who can't let go of the damn ring. He wrote books, screenplays, podcasts, short stories, and poems. He reached out to athletes across all sports. He cold called writers like J.K. Rowling, business leaders, actors, musicians. He called them every day, sometimes 3 times a day, hounded them to try to understand what made them great and absorb whatever knowledge or inspiration they would give him. These are the kind of things that when people go, "Oh, this was just a basketball player," but these are the stories of why he was so much more. There is nobody who has these stories. Who knows how many of them are true or overblown or romanticized? Even a lot of times, I'm sure, by Kobe, we've found out just this phenomenal storyteller, and he just has a kind of a star allure around him that very few have. And going through more of this Ramona article, the core of what he called the Mamba mentality. That's the 2 free throws he took after tearing the left Achilles tendon in 2013. People who I know are passionate about what they do. I like seeing them do great things. That's what I enjoy, Kobe said. And he gave Ramona a really nice message. He shot her a nice message when she was pregnant. He said, "You're bringing God's greatest blessings into the world, and you have been blessed to give birth, a gift some cannot have. Women are walking miracles." Los Angeles Sparks star Candace Parker heard from Kobe before Game 5 of the finals. She'd won at every level except the WNBA, and it was starting to become a defining characteristic. So he called her and asked her, "What are you afraid of?" And he said, "You're either going to lose scared or you're going to win. It's that simple." And he very much took a liking to the NBA later on. after his playing career because of his daughter's interest in the NBA. And Kobe also said, you have to understand the fact that we're human. He said, we all say shit that we shouldn't say. We all do things that we shouldn't do. We are all angels. We are all devils. And Ramona did the story on him. She said she pushed him on uncomfortable things like the fractured relationship with his parents, the sexual assault case in Colorado, being called uncoachable by Phil Jackson, selfish by teammates and rival business partners. He didn't flinch. He wanted to be pushed harder and make him uncomfortable. Interviews were competitive and combative. They were like a game of one-on-one. Kobe, she talked to him about the going 17 on a 17-win Laker team and how he was dealing with that. And he said, it's simple. I adjust to the reality of the situation. Accept it, be aware of the rage, and accept it while focusing on having the mind for this challenge, which entails patience, teaching, understanding. Different challenges call for different approaches. He started to just kind of understand things better. And the day after he scored that 60-point game, his last game, he went to church in the morning. Yeah, he said, I think after 20 years, it's important to give thanks for having such a blessed life. I wanted to make sure I went and paid my respects and just said thank you. That was Ramona. The next one is from Adrian Wojnarowski. You're going to go through some stuff I highlighted in here. He said, when Kobe Bryant wanted to talk, he'd shoot you a text or an email when you headed this way again. He said almost anything Bryant shared would become a story. He never seemed to grow tired of the swirl surrounding him. In fact, it fueled him. He said in most interviews, Kobe wanted to send a message to management or coaches or teammates or opponents. He was very cerebral. He knew what he was doing. He knew when he said something it was going to be news. Back in November 2010, he said the target was Michael Jordan. He said Jordan had said something that felt like a slight to Bryant, leaving him off some sort of list of great players. And then when asked about Jordan, Bryant had an opening to tell a story about Michael Jackson. He told of the pop icon as a teenager, telling Bryant that he could sense he was taking a lot of grief for being different. He said, the mentality that I have is not an athletic one. It's not from Jordan. It's not from other athletes. It's from Michael Jackson. See, Kobe did what he did and how he did it. He looked at Michael Jackson and what he did was psychotic. Michael Jackson helped him get to a level where he was able to win 3 titles playing with Shaq because of preparation and study. And these are the stories that everybody, I think, kind of gravitates to, because you see this just extreme will and just wanting to just go above and beyond, and knowing that's what it was going to take in order to be considered one of the best. Kobe told Woj some stories later about his passion for coaching his daughter Gigi's teams. And you read in all these articles too, just how everybody, you got the news and it just didn't sink in. It still didn't really hit me for a while. It hit me kind of hard on Sunday night, and then it's a little bit in spurts when I'm watching different things or listening to different things here and there, and it just didn't feel real. It still kind of doesn't. It feels just like a weird kind of, I don't know. That didn't. Because what's crazy is, when you're young, especially you watch someone like who is a larger than life character like Kobe was, you don't think they can get. And I watched him. It's like when he got hurt, I just never thought he would get hurt. Even Achilles, and he came back from that. He wasn't the same player again, but he just seemed invincible, kind of larger than life, and I never thought something could kill him. Sounds weird, but that's just how when you see your superheroes or the ones that you really look up to like that, you don't think anything will take them away, especially at a young age. Here's a one from the Ringer from Zach Cram. This is 24 stats that explain Kobe Bryant's legacy, and this one's just a lot of stats about him. No player in any major professional sport spent more time playing for a team in Los Angeles than Kobe. Kobe played 20 seasons for the Lakers, the second longest in NBA history for one team player, trailing only Dirk's 21 in Dallas. No other Laker spent more than 14 seasons with the franchise. He's the Laker career leader in games, minutes, points, field goals made and attempted, three-pointers made and attempted, free throws made and attempted, and win shares. He was the first guard in league history to play 20 seasons. Vince Carter has since passed that. He's the only player in NBA history with two different jersey numbers retired by the same team, number 8 and number 24. He is tied for first in career in all NBA selections with 15, same as Kareem, Tim Duncan, and LeBron James. His 11 first-team All-NBA selections rank him behind LeBron and tie him with Malone. He is tied for second in career All-Defensive selections with 12 and tied for first with the 9 first-team All-Defensive nods. I think that's one thing that we kind of forget about when we talk about Kobe's career, how he prided himself on the defensive end too, and especially earlier on in his career, how when Shaq was around, how he took on the biggest defensive assignment. And even after Shaq was gone for a while, it was just later in his career he couldn't really do that anymore. He is second in career All-Star games with 18. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had 19. Only LeBron has scored more points in All-Star games. Kobe has 4 All-Star MVPs, tied for the most. Kobe was third in the NBA's all-time scoring list when he retired, and LeBron just passed him, so he's fourth. Kobe scored 40-plus games, 40-plus points in a game 122 times, which is third most in the league, behind Wilt and Michael Jordan. He scored 50 in a game 25 times, which is also the third most in the league. And he scored 60 in a game 6 times, which is second most in the league, only behind Wilt. He scored 81 against the Raptors, the second highest single total game ever. He won 5 titles and earned Finals MVPs in 2009 and 2010. No team since has won a three-peat. No Heat, no Warriors. If you combine his regular season and postseason totals, he played 57,278 minutes and scored 39,283 points, both ranking 4th in history. He is the career leader in only one statistic, missed shots, which this is a good point. So it seems like a strange choice to celebrate, but the very opportunity to shoot that often is a marker of dominance. The top 30 players in career misses are all current or future Hall of Famers. So much of Bryant's on-court legacy was tied to his irrepressible determination to compete and to score. He shot and he kept shooting. He knew he'd miss. He knew he'd miss 100% of the shots he didn't take. His final game was a fitting capstone. He took 50 shots, the most of any player since 1967. He scored 60 points. And this game was unbelievable. They came back to win. Showed it the other night. It was the same night that the Warriors won their record 73rd game, and everybody was focused on Kobe's game. The stars in the building, all over. I mean, every celebrity that you could possibly think of was there. He's in the top 5 in career playoff minutes, field goals made and attempted, and points. Only LeBron, Jordan, and Kareem have scored more points in the playoffs than Kobe, and Shaq ranks 5th. This is from Rob Mahoney. A couple of things I liked in this. He said Kobe Bryant was a legend, not just so famous as to seem larger than life, but so revered to the point of actual mythology. There are tales that Kobe would sleep for only a few hours. A run of air balls against Utah became a Kimbellian trial. His story took on a life of his own. The 5 rings, the late game daggers, the persistence through injury, the ruthlessness on the court, the 81-point game, the fabled work ethic, the mechanical brilliance of the Mamba mentality, the torn Achilles, the 60-point farewell. Goes through all the players who have kind of looked up to him and talked about growing up watching him play. And this was another good article to take a look at. This was that was on the Ringer. And then some stuff just looking at Kobe's numbers on Basketball Reference, and then I'm going to get into a lot of the social media posts, some of your memories and your thoughts. You're going through, you talk about his defense, and you look at his steal numbers or ones. He averaged over 1.3 steals, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times. Over 2.2 one year. And the assist numbers, everybody gave him crap for never passing the ball. Kobe never passes the ball. Kobe averaged 5 assists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 assists, 5.4, 5.4, 5, 6, 6.3, 5.6, And he's an 18-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ, 5-time NBA champ, 15-time All-NBA, 12-time All-Defense, All-Rookie Team, Finals MVP, 2007, 2008 MVP. A lot of these things I'm repeating, 2 or 3 times, but just in different ways, shape, or forms. Let's get over to a lot of the social media posts from some of you out there. Nicky D. Agostino. My son is destroyed by the news. We'd see him around the community church store gym. You take my phone to take this picture with him. R.I.P. Mom, but he was a really nice guy and always personable. And one of the pictures that you're seeing all around the internet is not Kobe holding up a title or even like a lot of his game-winning shots. It's the picture of him sitting courtside with his daughter, and they're watching a game and they're talking about what happened, what's going on. All of the gestures that we've seen through the teams that are running out the 24-second clock, getting an 8-second violation, doing different tributes with the shoes, with the uniforms. Jake Lake said he wrote to Kobe almost 20 years ago, and he got a letter back to Jake. Sorry it took so long to get back to you, but I would like to thank you for being a fan and have a wonderful summer. And Zach Schwartz had said he brought flowers to Staples Center, and when the florist saw that he wanted purple and yellow, she asked for Kobe, and when she finished, he asked what I owed, and she shook her head and said, "It's L.A." Almost cried. The L.A. love for Kobe is powerful. Kareem with the nice post. Matt Liner, Eric Pincus talks about how he remembers Kobe answering questions to the reporters in English, then Spanish, then Italian. He could answer whatever the language that was asked, and remember he had a big following in Italy because he lived in Italy. People just showing up outside Staples Center, Kobe jerseys all over. This was right before the Grammys when he passed away on Sunday. And his daughter, he said he knew she had it. He was so proud when he was talking about them. She said she could beat him too in one of their interviews. And he's you see the photos out there of him biting the jersey, and the picture of the daughter his daughter Gigi right next to him, biting the jersey just like him. He was so proud of her. Leonardo DiCaprio posting about him. Shaq was just really torn up. Shaq and Jerry West, I think, of all the people I've seen, really having a tough time handling it. If you missed him, Matt Dinnerman had a good sign-off when he was finishing up the racing up at Golden Gate on Sunday. And, you see his teammates, Rick Fox, you see it floating around the photo of Gigi Bryant taking the turnaround jumper. A story from sportsbook concierge cannot stop thinking about how precious life is, how valuable time with loved ones is, how much it matters more than anything else. He just wanted to write something, and he said he's at a loss for words. Is now Kobe Bryant, but he saw him play in person in 1996 McDonald's All-American game at the Civic Center in Pittsburgh. He worked as a segment producer for the game. He sat between Gus Johnson and Bill Rafferty and handed them cards to read in and out of the breaks. He left in sheer amazement of how good those kids were and how they were on the cusp of amazing achievement. He was a young kid doing anything he could to find the way. He said, all I can think of what a proud dad Kobe was with his 4 daughters, coaching his girls, enjoying the fruits of his tireless work ethic and achievements, spending quality time with his wife and girls. And, yeah, you know, we've all kind of seen Kobe through the years, and we remember where we were maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or when he came up. And he's been out of the game now for a few years, but we all kind of saw him at different points of his life, different points of our life. You know, we all have ups and downs, and even if you're not a fan of the Lakers or weren't a fan of his, I think you can kind of look in your own life and say, yeah, you know, I've got plenty of ups and downs, and this was someone who we mentioned a few times now. He was not squeaky clean. Trae Young, who is Kobe's daughter's favorite player, had a 45-point double-double with under 25 field goals attempts against the Wizards. That was the first time since Kobe on December 17, 26, somebody had a 45-point double-double with under 25 field goal attempts. Dirk Nowitzki with a very nice boast to Kobe. Adolfo Garcia says Hannah saw Kobe's last game in San Antonio the year he retired. His Spurs fans gave him a warm welcome and a send-off. Thoughts and prayers to the families of all that were lost in the accident. Our days aren't promised. Hug your loved ones. Call your moms. Wayne Ellington said in 2014, playing for the Lakers, his pop got killed, and Kobe was there for him. Text and advice motivated him to get back on the court when he was in a really dark place. You know, everybody keeps talking about the 2 free throws with the blown Achilles, and then walked himself off the court. The game winner in the 60-point last performance. You see Kyrgios wearing a Kobe Bryant jersey when he was warming up. You hear about Neymar doing similar stuff. The other 7 victims who passed away, we're going to give some mention to them. John Altobelli, Carrie Altobelli, Liz Altobelli, Christina Mauser, Sarah Chester, Peyton Chester, and Ara Zabayan. Vinny Bonsignor said, to put in perspective how big Kobe was in LA, the Rams traded up to the first pick in the 2016 draft, but delayed announcing it for nearly 24 hours out of respect to Kobe, who was playing the last game of his career that night at Staples Center. Good story from Alex Regla. You should check out about growing up together, what Kobe represents to the soul of Los Angeles. And they canceled the Clippers-Laker game that was supposed to be on Tuesday night just because the Clippers and the Lakers weren't really ready to play. The last time NBA game was canceled under such circumstances was in 2013 after the Boston Marathon bombings, and before that, the Kennedy assassination. So, you know, you go back a long ways. Then the stories started to come out. A lot of them funny, kind of light stories. Nick Young said, I just seen you talking about the broke thumb story. You didn't believe me, but you were the first person to check on me before surgery and after. And then him and Nick Young and Lou Williams talk about how when they got blown out in Portland, he took everybody's Kobe's, and said they couldn't wear them because they was soft. He threw them in the trash. That's so great. That's such a Kobe story. there is a really sad post from Lamar Odom. You started seeing a lot of these posts from Lamar, and he talked, about how he taught me so many things in life that were necessary on and off the court. And he said, I've been through my own stuff in life with using drugs, not being good to myself. When I was in the coma situation, if God would have came to me and said, we would take me and spare Kobe, I would have rather had that happen. And he said, in honor of my brother, I'm up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to get to the gym. Really sad stuff. For all the people out there that kind of want to give him crap too, you see what he was like. He was the first person to reach out to players that were hurt to go visit them. He was very good to a lot of people's families and kids, and in particular, some of the people that he took under his wing, like Lamar. He was really good to them all the time, on and off the court. LeBron's Instagram post was one that kind of got me going a little sad too. When you read it, and towards the end, my heart. He said, "My heart goes out to Vanessa and the kids. I promise you, I'll continue your legacy. You mean so much to all of us here at Laker Nation. It's my responsibility to put this shit on my back and keep it going. Please give me the strength from the heavens above and watch over me. I got us here." There's so much more I want to say, but I just can't right now. And, there were some people that were even giving LeBron crap for saying, stuff in there. I thought that was really cool, just to kind of say, I'm going to put a little pressure on myself now, and we're going to try to win this for you this year. In that game, the 60-point game, Nick Kostos tweeted this out too. The Lakers were down by 9 with 3 minutes and 46 seconds left to go, and Kobe only had 45 points. He scored 15 points in the final 3 minutes, and they won. Sasha Vujacic, who, Kobe was the player that I saw the most, and of all the players I've ever watched in any sport, he's definitely the one that's impacted me the most. And when I talk about my favorite players, you hear Nick Van Exel and Sasha Vujacic is two of my all-time favorites, and Sasha was very sad. They were really close, and that's kind of what I meant about he didn't. Was Sasha Vujacic the most talented player in the league? No, good 3-point shooter, play a little scrappy defense. He didn't care how good you were; he cared how much you cared. If you wanted it, if you were going to show up and work, he was going to help you. He would work with you, he would train with you. And some people enjoyed it and some didn't. And Sasha said, you taught me how to study film and how to defend. Because as a European, I was lazy on defense before you was an option. You've been my big brother since the beginning. We have pushed together beyond all limits. I remember the day Gigi was born, an unexplained tragedy that took 9 lives. So sad and in total shock. We've been seeing the trending hashtag of girl dad. Really cool story from Ellie Duncan about Kobe talking to her about being a dad and being a girl dad. And in recent years, Kobe, this is from Darren Rovell, in recent years, Kobe wanted to be remembered more as a businessman than a player. He made more money in the last 5 years of his life in business than he made as an NBA salary. Fitting tribute from the New York Stock Exchange. They had the purple and gold colors. Nick Van Exel at the post. This is a good story that Bryant Shaw told. He said that that Phil Jackson, Kobe would tell Phil, Kobe and Phil would talk, and he would ask who is better between Michael Jordan and Kobe, and Phil would kind of give Kobe a hard time and say that Michael was better because he had bigger hands, and that was the difference. And so Kobe was trying to to get his hands to be bigger. He was working his hands out, doing one of those squeezes all the times, and that just shows you how driven he was. You kind of tell him he couldn't do something, and he would prove you otherwise. Just, if you're a fan of Kobe or basketball or whatever, just remember to take an extra second and look at your kids, and you just keep in mind that we just never know. And over on Facebook, I got a lot of really nice or different posts. Jonathan Murillo was mentioning Kobe, and he posted a video that Kobe just a few days ago was with his niece in practice. He's out there directing, showing them where to stand, what to do. Austin Herdina, Torres, hearing him silence the haters. Austin Herdina, never forget the night he scored 81 points against Toronto. He was a freshman in college, and the entire floor of the dorm was watching it. The rest of the night, we all kept saying, Kobe Bryant just scored 81 points in a single ball game. Mark Bonagura says it's unimaginable, really. He touched so many people with kind of who he was and who he stood for. Deborah, who was some of my grade school, Deborah and Elizabeth, Deborah Cooley and Elizabeth Delgado, who was Deborah Melvin, and Elizabeth Flores for me. Said I remember watching games, all of our families. We grew up in awe, seeing Kobe, Shaq, Ori, Derek Fisher, Rick Fox win championships, part of our childhood. Billy went to his rival high school, and his wife went to Lower Merion. His buddy cut his hair, and even when he would come back home, he has stories. Donna Condrath, the daughter's a huge basketball fan, played in high school and helped coach manage USC basketball team. She attended, an avid Laker fan, and Kobe was her favorite player. We watched most of the Laker games together. She has his jerseys in one room upstairs, his Kobe memorabilia in there. She's at Staples Center now, working at the Grammys. All of the jerseys are Kobe'd up, and only 2 are lit. He surely will be missed. Gabe Vertanian said I made sure I saw him play one last time in his final season. Better than LeBron. Steven Sullivan says, even if you don't follow basketball, this hits you and it hurts. May Kobe, Gigi, and all the others rest in peace. Andrew Champagne didn't move to LA until long after Kobe's prime, so my views might be a little different than most. However, regardless of what anyone thought about Kobe Bryant as a man or a basketball player, Sunday's tragedy drives home that life is short. He was 41. His daughter was barely a teenager. There was a lot of life left to be lived by the people on that plane. Moral of the story, don't be afraid to hug and tell the people you love them. Tell them that you love them. Don't take things personally. Make sure to focus on the things that really matter. Bill App. Memories of Kobe go even further. Being from Philadelphia originally, I remember first seeing Kobe play basketball in 95 and 96 at Lower Merion. He will be missed by all. Rest in peace to the Black Mamba. Darren Zocali. We heard Darren on the show last week with us. He said, my son turned 7 this year. He's been playing basketball for almost 3 years now. He loves it. Kobe's one of the few names he knows from my generation. When the news broke that his daughter was with him, my son didn't understand. With the passing of my father and mother-in-law, we'd explained to him that when people get old, some people get sick, and then it's time to go to heaven. Try to make it as easy on him as possible. But with this, he didn't understand. He kept saying, I didn't know somebody so young could die. I didn't know what to say. That's rough. David Alicia said, such a sad day, Gino. And even Howard Hinchuk chimes in, said the Sixers had the first overall pick in 86, trading Jellybean Bryant to the Clippers. 86 draft day was the worst day for the Sixers organization. They traded the number 1 overall pick for Roy Hinson and traded Moses Malone to the Bullets for more useless junk. In 96, the Sixers had the number 1 overall pick again. They selected Allen Iverson, great, Hall of Famer, but instead of Kobe Bryant. And this one, Yeah, this one hurts. This one's going to be being talked about for a while. I think there are going to be a lot of gestures coming up, especially with the All-Star game, and we'll continue to see different players showing their support and their appreciation, and what they learned from Kobe's life. You learn that you work really hard. You won't be perfect. You have to respond with strength when you make a mistake, and when you fail, you just keep going, and you just try to be the hardest working person in the room, no matter what. That's kind of the message you take from this, because even if you don't like Kobe and you think he was a bad guy, or you weren't a fan, the messages that people kind of gain from him aren't bad messages. So if anything, just kind of take those messages, and we'll have a episode in a few days where we go through a big Super Bowl episode. We'll cover a lot of the weekend racing. There's a big horse races this weekend, but this felt like an episode that we just wanted to talk about Kobe and sharing Kobe. It would have been hard to kind of go into a different segment. Didn't want to even do anything with the opening and closing songs this week. So thank you to everyone out there for all the messages. And, it's funny, people know that I'm a big Laker fan, so people were actually really reaching out to me and asking me how I was doing, and it hit really hard, and it kind of goes in waves, where you just go, wow, this was someone who I really looked up to a lot of my life and was a major constant, and I will continue to take all the positive things that I learned from Kobe. Just try to work hard and keep sharing those stories with me. They're great, the fun ones, the good ones, the ones where he's just beating on people or in practice or just anything, because that's what makes him such a polarizing person, is that he was flawed. He was perfect. He was not perfect. He didn't try pretend to be. He just kept working hard. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back in a few days, and we'll start talking some Super Bowl with a couple guests, and we'll really break down that big game.